Hi friends, Section 7 of the Contract Act lays emphasis on the acceptance by the offeree. And there is a rule which all of us must understand, and it should be called the mirror rule, where the offer and acceptance must correspond exactly. There should be no variation. Intention of the offeree must be expressed with certainty. Now, let me give you some examples, and I have given some notes for your perusal here. There could be no contract by acceptance referring to future negotiations. Why do I say that? Because the intention of the parties is to be gathered from the expression used and the meaning it conveys. For example, acceptance will have to have legal effect if the new terms are brought in and are trivial. For example, A tendered to buy from the defendant 305,000 tons of coke at 31 rupees per ton and deposited rupees 5,000 as security. Acceptance of the tender and deposit of the security constituted a contract. Now, exactly that's what I was saying. The acceptance of conditional offer is an acceptance of the offer and conditions attached to it. Nobody can say, I will accept these part conditions, I will not accept the whole conditions. Acceptance means the whole, and also it has to be conveyed back in the format prescribed by the offerer. Unless it is done exactly in the format required and on the terms required by the offerer, there cannot be any acceptance. Now, let's go further, and there is a case of Kanhaiya Lal Agrawal versus Union of India, decided by Honorable Supreme Court in 2002. Exactly, it is, I have cited the case for your perusal. The acceptance of conditional offer is an acceptance of the offer and the conditions attached to it. You cannot say, I accept the offer, but I do not accept the conditions attached to it. Similarly, absolute acceptance of the offer does not result in a contract if acceptance does not extend to all terms of the negotiations. As I said a moment ago, it has to be either all terms or no acceptance. Similarly, friends, there was a case which struck me as important for your perusal, decided by the Supreme Court in 1996. It's called the case of Rajasthan Cooperative Dairy Federation versus Mahalakshmi Mingate Marketing Services Private Limited. Here, the letter of intent was issued on the term that the contractor would sign the contract and furnish bank guarantee of a scheduled commercial bank, which the contractor failed to do. It was held that the two conditions were conditions precedent to the formation of a proper contract, and the revocation of letter of intent was therefore held valid. Now, what were the two conditions? One, that there shall be a security, and two, it shall be on a scheduled commercial bank, which the offeree did not perform. Now, acceptance of a counter offer creates a binding contract. Let's see what it means. I make an offer. In result, you accept that, but you also make an offer. And thereafter, that becomes a counter offer. And if I accept that, then it becomes a binding contract. Now, there are some organizations where acceptance may be required on certain formats. It is called the battle of forms, where if a party submits a document containing terms after making the contract, it will not affect the existence of the contract. New terms will become part of the contract if they are accepted by the terms of variation. Similarly, where an agreement of a sale of lease is subject to purchaser's solicitor accepting the lease, approving the lease, the contract will be conditional. And there will be no completeness of the agreement, because the condition is that the attorney might accept, might not accept. Similarly, there was a case which struck me as important, decided by Supreme Court in 1971, and it is called the case of Union of India versus Bhimsen Vaklati Ram, where the acceptance is subject to approval. The contract becomes binding on confirmation being given, and communication of such approval is not again necessary. This is a very important case, and I must take a minute to repeat it. Where the acceptance is given subject to approval, the contract becomes binding on confirmation being given, and the communication of such approval therefore becomes irrelevant. The offerer can revoke his offer until confirmation has been received, subject to which the acceptance was given. As I said a moment, this case decided by Supreme Court lays down a new uh, dimension of the acceptance. Similarly, friends, you all know that Article 299 of the Indian Constitution prescribes that the contracts with the Government of India have to be in the name of the governor or president. And therefore, that condition is again a battle of format, and that doesn't impose any new condition. Similarly, acceptance and contracts of insurance, if I may take a moment to take you into the contracts of insurance, insurer must accept the risk, take steps to underwrite the risk, and issue the policy. In the case of assured, a positive act on his part by which he recognizes to enforce the policy amounts to affirmation of it. An acceptance of the proposal on the condition that the first premium will be paid within 30 days of acceptance in law is a counteroffer. Please, you have to take the insurance contracts carefully, where a cover note comes and it says acceptance is done, but subject to the condition that the premium should be paid within 30 days, and the assured doesn't pay, then there is no contract. Cover note also signifies that, and it only signifies that the policy is in the preparation. And electronic record may require the addressee to acknowledge receipt in a particular form. And if the receipt is not acknowledged, mind you, there is no acceptance. Let's go to the next section, section 8. Now, what does it say? A proposal is in every case accepted by the performance. What is that? It says the proposal here, communication by the acceptor to the proposer or his agent is necessary when the terms consist of, but when only acts are required, the communication of their performance may or may not be added as a term of offer. What is it? When you joined the law course, the first case on contract that the law teacher teaches is Mrs. Carlyle versus Carbolic Smoke Ball Company, where the Carbolic Smoke Ball Company made an offer to the general public saying that if anybody buys this and inhales it as prescribed, then the smoke ball will how many? Okay. Friends, I was talking to you of the Carlyle versus Carbolic Smoke Ball Company. Mrs. Carlyle bought the smoke ball and she exactly followed the instructions which were contained along with uh, the as prescribed by Carbolic Smoke Ball Company, but she still contracted influenza. So she filed the case against the company, and the case was upheld and she was awarded the damages on the condition that when the offer was to anyone who performed on the condition on faith of advertisement and by such performance it became a contract. Therefore, Mrs. Carlyle was entitled to reward and damages. The words of Lord St. Leonard's in Mossel versus Hedges, they are very important in this case because what it says where it is not a proposal with a condition which being accepted was equivalent to a contract. Now, what does it say? It says, was this not a proposal with a condition which on being accepted became a contract? Exactly. That's what Carbolic Smoke Ball Company said. They said, if you accept that condition, buy the product and use it as per our instructions. Carlyle did that and it became a contract. Their lordships do not doubt that it was a contract. This is a very important case where words of Lord St. Leonard's in Mossel versus Hedges, which case I have provided for your notes here. So, friends, that's all about Section 8 because it's an offer in general, which on performance becomes a contract, and therefore, let's move on to Section 9. Section 9 talks of express and implied promises and express and implied contracts. They may be oral or in writing. And as we have quoted a case here, All England Reporter of 1962, where it says a written contract may be a single document, each party being bound by signing it. First to sign is the offerer, second to sign is the offeree. The case is called Financing Limited. And what it means is here that in a written contract, if there is a single document where the first party signing it becomes an offer and the second party to sign is an offeree, and it's about the express contract in Alpati Ramurthy versus Policity, which again is quoted for your perusal. Andhra Pradesh High Court held an express contract means reciprocal promise contained in the words of the contract. Now, here is a new meaning given by Andhra Pradesh. It means express contract is a reciprocal promise contained in the words of the contract. This definition is a further addition to the definition of the English court in the aforesaid case. Friends, the other contract which I was mentioning to you just now are the category under this section are the implied contracts. What are those? Where proposal or acceptance or both are signified not by words but by acts or conduct the acts or conducts must be such that it can give rise to the inference that there must have been an implied offer or acceptance. For example, contracts by mercantile use, where you see generally in a stock exchange, in a mercantile, where the person raises his finger and it means that he has bought it. Similarly, a person walks in my earlier lecture, I was talking where a person walks into a tramway, drops a coin, there is a acceptance by conduct, and he has accepted that. Similarly, you walk in London buses and you drop a coin. These are all where you, by conduct, you accept this. And I gave you the example of mercantile use. Now, friends, what are the implied terms? Implied terms I have tried to categorize in three parts: custom, law, and codes. What are those? Some are in certain relationships, in certain mercantile use. There is a custom, there is something that is established, and we follow that conduct by custom. Then in some cases, it is by law, where I gave you the example of, offer in general. For example, you walk in a tramway or you drop a coin, you accept it. In some cases, it is maybe by courts. What is that? The courts will interpret that to be accepted by conduct, and that becomes a contract. However, in D.B. Iyer versus Dish Board, South High Court, Madras High Court held that a promise which is excluded by the express terms of a contract cannot be implied, which is absolutely natural, because if expressly there is an exclusion, there cannot be any, you cannot put a meaning of implied consent to that. And therefore, we cannot import the consent by implication. Now, similarly, we have, as we said in a previous section discussion on Article 299, we have said that there cannot be an implied contract under Article 299 of the Constitution. Why is it? Because I said a moment ago that the contracts with the governments, central government may be in the name of President of India, in the name of state, it may be governor, and it expressly bars that there cannot be any implied contract between the government and another person, because that would nullify the provision of Article 299, and which says no contract can be inferred from the facts and circumstances of the case, and a contract not complying with the provision of Article 299 is not a contract at all and is not enforceable. So please be very careful when you are examining a contract under Article 299 in the name of, particularly contracts with the governments, where the contracts are in the name of the sovereign government. Therefore, we cannot at that time begin to say that something was implied, because it cannot be implied. Friends, this section actually brings into fore the entire gist of what you have studied from section 2 to 9, because it says a contract is a consensual act and parties are free to settle as they please, as this has been laid by the state of, in the case of state of Madras versus Ramalingam, by the High Court of Madras. It says, let's understand, it's a consensual act and parties are free to settle as they please. And now let's see the Motor Insurance Act, Motor Insurance Statute. A statute may compel a person to enter into a contract These may be cars where parties do not enjoy freedom in making a contract, or cement sold to allottees under orders passed under Cement Control Act, or fertilizer, or some such thing. Now, these are statutory compulsions, because if you buy a car or a motorcycle, you have to take an insurance contract, and you may not like it. However, in Vishnu Agencies Private Limited versus Commercial Tax Officer, Supreme Court said neither the dealer is bound to deal nor customer is compelled to purchase, though both are bound to comply with the legal requirements. This is because in a cement purchase case, where it was said that it is a compulsion of law, the Supreme Court said no. Supreme Court said the dealer is not under any obligation to deal in cement, and customer is not obliged to purchase if he doesn't want to buy. Although both are bound, but if the dealer agrees to deal in the cement and the customer has to purchase cement for his house or building or whatever, then of course they must comply with the law, statutory requirements of the sale of cement. Similarly, the contract implies two parties, natural person and the other person who have a legal personality. Some may be incompetent, for example, obviously the second, the category of people who are not competent to contract are minors, lunatics. We shall continue. Thank you.